The internet has made it easier than ever to start a business. Succeeding on the internet, now that's another story. The big question is, what are those who are succeeding doing differently? This podcast has the answers. Welcome to the Marketing Matrix podcast. I'm your host, Lisanne Murphy, and I am joined today by the incredible and talented Hernan Vazquez. Hernan, thank you so much for coming on the show with me today.
Hey, Lisanne. Hey, everyone. It's really, really good. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, okay, guys. I want to take a second to introduce this entrepreneur. And I have to say that the first time I met him was at Funnel Hacking Live 2019. It was the first time Funnel Hacking Live was in Nashville. And I was with my friend Catherine Jones, and Catherine introduced me to Hernan. And I was newer in the traffic buying space. So when I met Hernan and I found out everything that he'd done, I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy, he's so legit. He's amazing. And so I had the opportunity to pick his brain. And I'm so excited to have him on the show again to do a deep dive with some of the marketing that he's doing. He is the traffic guy behind Frank Kern and Grant Cardone, guys. So this guy he's legit. And I was just talking to him before we hit record on the interview. And he's like, yeah, I spend part of my time in the US and part of my time in Buenos Aires. So, I mean, this guy, he lives where he wants. He does what he wants. He has multiple companies that he is running and doing consulting for. He's built multiple seven-figure businesses. And just last year alone, guys, he spent over $7 million on ad spend last year. So guys, I mean, if you want to know marketing, paid advertising, this is the guy to talk to. So again, thank you again, Hernan, for coming, and we can't wait to hear all of your secrets you decide to divulge with us today.
Sounds good. I cannot wait to share it with your audience. This is really good. Thank you for the introduction.
Of course. So before we get into like the actual nitty gritty of the marketing, for those that aren't as familiar with you, how did you become this traffic buyer for these like huge tycoons in the industry?
So that's actually a good question. I can give you guys a little bit of a backstory. I had a really comfortable job here in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. I was doing recruiting for a big company here. This was like 10 or 12 years ago or something like that. And then I decided to just, quit that job and follow the entrepreneurial journey, whatever that was, right, at that time. And I knew that I wanted to do something for myself, and it was supposed to be something digital because I was like really into digital, marketing at that point, I would say, but digital anything and everything. So I decided to quit my job. And I remember the first freelancer job that I had was the same company hiring me to do recruiting, but outside as a freelancer, right? Headhunting and freelancing and whatnot. So what I had to do is to build a website. So the guys told me, hey, this is great. We're going to bring it to the director of HR. He already knows you, but you need to build a website. So I decided to go ahead and, I went ahead and start learning about WordPress and hosting and, domains and all of that. And then I put together a website on WordPress the first time. And that really hooked me up. That was really interesting for me. And I did that for a little bit. I went ahead and did a little bit of recruiting, but I wasn't jiving with the fact that the recruiting. So at that point, I decided to leave that too. And then I moved to a city here in Argentina called Cordoba. It's southern, of the country. So it's really, really south, it's really southern. And at that point,
penguins there, aren't there? There's penguins in Cordoba, aren't there?
Yeah, well, there is. It's a little bit northern, but yeah, you could see some. I would say you could see some. So what happened there is that I moved in with my girlfriend at the time, and she had a job, and I didn't. So I was like, okay, what's next? I knew that I wanted to do something digital. I started learning about web design, SEO. I had that first experience, and I started contacting people here to build their websites and all of that. And, but it took time. It really took a couple months, I would say, 6 to 8 months maybe, or just like trying to figure this out, reading on forums and reading on, on different platforms online, trying to learn. And at some point it got so tight, like things were really, really tight because we were living, we were renting a house and we were living off of my girlfriend's salary. And at some point we had to actually choose between putting food on the table or heating up the house, so it was that bad. It was really bad. And at that point, what I, out of all of the stuff that I tried and tested, I put together a profile on Fiverr.com. And I started selling articles. I could, kind of write in English and whatnot. So I started selling articles for $4 a pop. They would charge you $5, but they will, keep $1. So the rest was my way. So I started like writing articles for $4 a pop, and I was like spending 12, 14 hours a day, like howling on my laptop, my fingers like really swollen and frozen because, it was like really, really cold. So I did that for a while, and then with the learnings that I had based off of web design, and then people started to asking me about SEO optimizing their articles, so I started learning about SEO as well. And what happened is that I started doing a lot of a decent amount of SEO. So people will come to me, ask me for a web design. So I put together a WordPress website, and then people say, okay, now I need traffic. So I started doing learning about SEO. And this was like 7 years ago. I came together with this group. Alex Becker at the time put together a group called Dynasty. And I met these guys. And these guys, right now they are after like 7 years of business, they're my partners. And, we put together our first digital company of training. It is called Semantic Mastery. And what happened with Semantic Mastery is that most of us had our own clients and SEO clients. It was mostly SEO related. But we had to acquire customers from the internet, right? For our different funnels and whatnot. So at that point, this was like 6 years ago, I decided to take a gander and start like learning about Facebook ads. And that's basically, the rest of is history. I started learning about Facebook ads. I was good at SEO. It wasn't really my thing, but when I started doing paid ads, Facebook ads, Google ads, mostly Facebook ads, I was hooked. Like from the beginning, I was completely hooked. So then, one thing led to the next. At some point I was running ads for Dan Henry as well, for him, a lot of campaigns, he came recommended and whatnot. So then, here we are running ads for the past 6 years. And that was quite all right. That was pretty cool.
That's amazing. Okay. But there's still a big gap in the story for me here. Like, how did you go from like being a freelancer on Fiverr to getting in contact and like being in the network of names with like Dan Henry, Grant Cardone, Frank Kern? Like, how did that happen? Because that's not just like, the rest is history.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So I've always been, so how Russell says that you need to put together your dream 100, right? So I think that one of the fastest way of accelerating your learning and, accelerating your career, whatever it is that you're doing, is to work for somebody or work with somebody that is in the position that you want to be in, right? And something that I found that is really, really, the way to open those type of doors is to be super helpful and deliver massive amounts of value, to somebody until they start noticing. So for instance, so I met this guy called PJ. He's from Florida. And I started like, he was a role model for me. He was like really, really out there, and, he was doing a lot of cool stuff. So what I did was to reach out to him and tell him in the SEO vein, hey dude, your website could be optimized by doing this, 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 and this. And we started having a conversation, and, I started doing SEO for him. And then I became part of his team. And then, at some point I started doing Facebook ads for him as well. And then Dan, he was friends with PJ, and Dan was looking for a media buyer. He was doing his $97 product, 30-day agency. And he was doing really well, but he wanted to scale. He wanted to focus on the business. So he was asking about a media buyer. So he reached out and say, hey, dude, I knew that you did this for PJ. Can you do something similar for me? So at that point, it was all about like wiggling my way into these networks by providing massive, massive value. So for instance, on Frank Kern's case, it was a little bit different. I joined his inner circle because anyone that has done any digital marketing at all know Frank Kern, and I've been following Frank for the past 10 years since I started pretty much. So and I'm a big fanboy, So I went into his inner circle. I paid to be part of his inner circle. And then I started delivering so much value in his Facebook group right, for the inner circle. And then one of his team members reached out to me, Tyler, he reached out to me and said, hey, dude, do you want to become a moderator of the Facebook group, right? And I was like, yeah, sure. We'll waive your inner circle fee, whatever. And, you know, we'll let you in and you can be a moderator of the Facebook group. So I said, yeah, sure. Why not? And then at some point, Frank decided that he wanted to start offering Facebook ads for clients. And then, you know, there was like a couple people on his Facebook group. There was this guy called Brad Bearden, super cool dude. He became Frank's CMO, and then he reached out to me. He said, hey, dude, we're putting together this agency. Do you want to come and, you know, work with us? I was like, of course I want, right? And then I started like running ads for Frank's clients for the agency, and we started doing really, really well. And on March, this was like at the end of 2018, on the beginning of 2019, this was like in Funnel Hacking Live. I received a call, you know, from Brad Bearden, that he was like, that we were like expanding the agency, but he was also leaving the company to do his own stuff. So he said, dude, you will need to come in and fill in. So at that point, I kind of inherited all of the campaigns from, you know, Frank Hernan. So I started running ads for Frank. This was since the beginning of last year. And, you know, I remember that because I was in the Gaylord Opryland, the convention center, when I got that call. So I remember that the time. And then at that point, and at that same instance, like we were running ads for all of these clients, and Frank and Grant Cardone partnered up last year to develop the Cardone advertising agency. That was a big hit last year. And so I was there, I was taking care of all of the marketing for Frank. And then the agency started growing. We started with like 20, 30 accounts maybe. And by October last year, 2019, we ended up with like 200 and something accounts. And yeah, they were like, we started working like 5 people working at the agency. We ended up with 55 people working at the agency at some point. And I had to train all of the media buyers. So all of the media buyers will come in. We had like a team of 15 media buyers. I had to train all of the media buyers. And then, you know, I kept on running all of the ads for Frank, but I also started running all of the ads for the agency. And then I was, you know, consulting with the guys, the traffic guys from Grant Cardone, because we were having amazing results with the campaigns that we were running for the agency. So that was kind of it. Like, if you want to get into someone's radar, into someone's circle, you need to deliver insane amount of value to that person to become somebody, and you become an asset, like a real asset to that person. And that can accelerate your career a lot. It did for me. And it's never about, hey, how can I help you? Or, hey, what can I do for you, right? Because now if you approach your desired mentor with that mindset, it's like, okay, now you become my problem. Now I need to think what you can do for me. But if you go with a solution, whatever that is, it doesn't have to be huge. You don't need to change these people's business, but you need to come up with a solution that will help them a lot. And that way is how you wiggle in, and how you start like networking with these folks. And then at some point you can start like really growing and producing results for these people. Does that make sense?
I love that.
Okay.
Yes. And I love, like, the biggest thing that I pulled out is like, become an asset. Like that is so powerful. And I have experienced that in my own life, where even like people that work for me, when they say, what do you want me to focus on most right now? And I'm like, I don't have the brain space to tell you that. Like, we've already had our meeting. Like, I need you to like look at what you've got, and and set a priority, and then come to me and say, okay, this is the priority that I've set. Like, do you agree? And
Right.
it's a total different approach than how can I help you? Which is, it's an honest request, but it's often not as helpful as you would think. So I love
Right.
that. Become an asset. That is so awesome. So what was it about Facebook ads when you said, like, I was hooked from the beginning? Like, why are Facebook ads so hooking for you? Because I mean, I have my own answer, because I'm this exact same way, but I'd love to hear yours.
Right. So I think it's a matter of the speed that you have. I came from like, I learned traffic from a perspective of, organic, right? From SEO, and it takes time, and then organic social media, and it takes time, and all of that. I think that there's this speed that you can get and the data that you can collect as fast as humanly possible to test an idea, a niche, or a funnel, or whatever, or a hook or an angle. I think that that's one of the most exciting things for me, because you can launch a funnel today, and as soon as the ads get reviewed and approved, and provided that everything else is right, you can get data in 24 hours or less, right? You can launch an ad in the morning, and then you can start reviewing that data in the evening. And when you're managing big budgets, that's even like, you can get data in 2 hours if you want to, right? So that is really exciting. I think that is one thing. The other thing is the speed at what like Facebook is learning and developing their AI. I think that is something that it's so good as advertisers, and the targeting capabilities and the machine learning that they have right now, it's like second to none. And I have experienced that several times when we were launching big campaigns with no targeting whatsoever, and then Facebook goes out there and find us buyers. That is really exciting, and I really like that. It has its pitfalls. Every traffic platform and everything that you do online will have disadvantages, but I think that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages of running Facebook ads. How about you?
I love that. Well, honestly, for me, it's the data as well. I just love that not only is it fast data, but it is like throughout the entire funnel. And I love like just being able to look at the whole ecosystem and like craft in my mind like the customer experience that people are having. And then I love to, like, on top of the Facebook ads, like put softwares like Hotjar or whatever to like actually record what's going on. And so like you're like, the stats are telling a story, and I just love that like you can get a very fast and really relatively accurate story based on like how people are interacting with your offer. It's so fun. It's so fun for me, because I've worked in corporate marketing before, where we did a lot of traditional marketing techniques that were not direct response. So like with mailers and TV spots and radio spots and things like that. And with that, I mean, you're just like chucking your budget out into the universe and like hoping that it comes back, and like knowing that like if you're hitting your KPIs, then like, I guess what was effective, so we can do a similar thing next year or whatever. But like, you don't know like how well that like spot in the magazine is doing. Whereas like with Facebook, you're like, I'm going to place this ad in this specific place and on this device, and I'm going to know exactly how well it performs. And it's just like the data just like makes me like super giddy. So
yeah, for sure. And also we come from this direct response approach, right? And that is something that I experienced like last year when we were working with the Grant Cardone team, hand in hand with the traffic people, is that they're all about exposure and awareness and brand awareness and exposure and all about that. So we were like having this conversation about killing, I think it was like $150,000 a month spot on Fox News or something like that, because we couldn't track, right? That we couldn't track the ROI that spot would have. And then we were sitting down with Grant, and he was like, no, but there's so much exposure that comes from this. And it's all about the school of thought, right? They are like all about exposure. And of course, if you have big budgets, you can allow yourself to do that. But when you are bootstrapped, with maybe you're spending like a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 on ad spend every month and whatnot, you need to hold every dollar accountable of what they're doing, right? You need to hold every dollar accountable. And when we started implementing like our direct response mind to the advertising, they were coming to us for advice because our ROI was, significant, and we intended to keep it like that, because otherwise the company couldn't function. So it's a completely different way of approaching advertising and marketing. There's no right or wrong. There's just like, the way it does. And since we come from a small entrepreneur bootstrap type of environment, we need to really buckle up and make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I've found, as I've worked with clients, like the more philosophies and strategies that you implement into a business, like the more synergistic effect they all have on the overall ROI, you know, because when people, you know, like that spot on Fox News, like if people see Grant Cardone there, like when they see an ad a week later, they're going to be like, oh my goodness, I just saw that guy on TV. And so they'll interact with the ad better than they would if like they didn't know who he was before that TV spot. So it's such a fun world to be in, isn't it?
It's super fun.
I love it. So where are you going with, like, are you you have some of your own companies and you're still working in the Grant Cardone and Frank Kern space as well? Like, are you in a spot of like maintaining, or like, what are some of your goals, like for someone who's already like doing so much and like you have your fingers in a lot of different pies already?
Yeah, you could say so. So right now I'm part of Frank's team, you know, since I think it was like December last year, Grant and Frank decided to part ways. So I'm still working with Frank. But so it's always a path of learning, you know, it's always a path of growing and whatnot. Generally for me, I don't take a lot of clients. I was telling you before that, you know, I had this big agency experience, like huge agency experience. And some people love that and some people die for it. That's not my case. You know, I want to keep my team pretty small. So I do serve some clients, you know, on a case by case basis, if there is a lot of upside and if I can really help them and crush, you know, what they're doing. So that's something. But now I'm trying to focus more on, because I've always been the guy behind the scenes. You know, I've always been the person behind the scenes, running the ads, building the stuff, building the funnels and all of that. Even in Semantic Mastery, which is the company that got the 2 Comma Club award for this year, I'm not the singing voice. My partner Bradley is, and he's a super cool dude. And you know, he's the singing voice of that. He's the front-facing guy. So what I'm trying to do right now is to double down on the personal branding side of things. So I started doing, you know, I started putting together a big project or a big process, I would say, for social media. So there's a lot of content going out there. There's a lot of, you know, different pieces of content that get repurposed. So the, you know, the whole 9 yards. But also like selling some of my own, you know, programs and workshops and courses and, you know, in-person type stuff. So that is basically what my goals are for 2020, is to keep on doing what I'm doing, you know, maintaining that for sure. It's a lot of fun. And I do geek out. I do run a lot of the ads myself because, you know, I do enjoy it. And in fact, before hopping on this call, I was like launching a new deadline sequence and I was like launching a new campaign, of course. So I do enjoy a lot, but it will be mostly like, you know, putting the message out there, you know, and helping more and more people and leveraging the fact that I can help more people by putting content out there and multiplying the effect that the brand has in all of the different businesses, whether they can hire a media buyer or not. If they're going to do any paid advertising, then they can get the right type of results and the right type of advice, I would say, whether they, you know, they follow me on Instagram or YouTube. It doesn't really matter. The idea is to expand and impact more entrepreneurs and lives this year. So
that's awesome. I love that. Congratulations. That's a big deal. Like, to go from behind the scenes to stepping out more as an influencer. I'm on a similar journey myself. And I didn't realize like how much resistance comes up for that. Has any resistance come up for you as you've been putting yourself out there more and not just doing behind the scenes type stuff?
Oh yeah. Every day, every single day, you know, every single day, because when you're working with these guys that they have been putting out content and goodwill in the marketplace for the past 20 years, some things seem easy, right? But you lose the perspective of saying, well, no, this person or this individual has been putting out goodwill and putting out value in the content in the marketplace for the past 20 years. So of course, everyone knows who they are, and everyone, you know, they have carved their own space. So you're comparing chapter Z of somebody with chapter A, right? So that is one of the resistances that I have. Not so much putting out content, but you know, in terms of, well, you know, this campaign that's working like this on this ad account, or this business manager is working like this on this other business manager, my own. And so it's a different journey, but I'm enjoying it. I'm really excited. I'm really excited. I'm enjoying it, despite the resistance, and I'm learning a lot about myself, you know, as I'm doing it, because it's a completely different thing to be the backstage that to, you know, step in front, and then you face a lot of demons, if you would, but then you learn a lot about yourself, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and look, you're on the podcast today. So you're
Awesome.
you're getting over the resistance and you're putting yourself out there. I love that. That's awesome. Okay, well, I would love to dive into some of the marketing techniques that you're using for yourself and for Frank right now.
Yeah.
So we know that that leads are the lifeblood of any business. We also know that you are a paid advertising guru. This is actually a really exciting time to be talking to you, because a lot of people are, you know, recognizing that Facebook is only making it so you can only manage the budget at the campaign level this week instead of at the ad set level. So I think a lot of media buyers and people that have been doing traditional ad set marketing techniques are kind of like freaking out a little bit. So I'm excited to dive into some of these things with you. So I guess my first question is, I know that I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and they're concerned, feeling like the Facebook marketplace is becoming crowded and it's harder to interrupt the patterns of users, especially because users are more accustomed to ads now. So what strategies are you using to be effective with the pattern interrupt with Facebook and stand out above the crowd?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And, you know, we test a lot of stuff, a lot of different stuff, mostly because we want to be, you know, on the forefront, and we want to kind of spearhead all of the changes that are coming, and the way Facebook, you know, ads campaigns are being run. But also because we also want to document, and we want to teach, you know, the people that are following us what is working right now. And something that's working for us really, really well is, you know, the traditional way of doing Facebook ads has always been, Facebook is so good at generating leads and generating, you know, direct response type of campaigns and a response of people, that the traditional way of doing stuff is you put an ad out there, and you combine copy with images and whatnot, and you send them to a funnel, right? It can be a webinar funnel, it could be an opt-in, it could be whatever. And that's working well, but then it turns out that it becomes a red ocean because everyone else is doing. So what we are, and then not only that, but that also increases the CPM, right? The CPMs on Facebook are definitely going up. They're not going down unless Facebook, I don't know, fixes the audience network, which, you know, like Google did. Google did the Google Display Network viable a couple of years ago, and now you have unlimited inventory to run ads from. Facebook is kind of taking its time to, you know, fix the audience network. So that gives us like a limited inventory for now, right? So on that case, what happens is that what we're doing is we're doing like a 2 or even 3-step approach. It's like there's a big opportunity right now to build your audiences in Facebook as well, right? Through, for instance, video views or engagement campaigns. And what we do is we have several layers of campaigns working at once. So our best performing campaigns, and this is a methodology that Frank, you know, developed like 2 years ago. It's called intent-based branding. Has mutated, has evolved, and we have been making it better through time. And the way it works, it's pretty simple actually. You need to put together content, video content for the most part, that signals and that dog whistles your ideal demographic, right? That signals to your ideal demographic. And those videos need to be really, 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 really helpful. They need to be really helpful, because otherwise you're missing the point of the entire strategy. So what we do is we run video views campaigns to, you know, using the targeting capabilities on Facebook, which are amazing and they're becoming better. And based off of that, we create audiences of 25% video viewers, 50% video viewers, 75% video viewers, 95% video viewers. And then we show them additional content, because we want to keep them engaged and indoctrinated in a way on Facebook, but also we show them offers. And we show them offers that could go, instead of just going for the kill right away, we show them offers that could go for a webinar, it could be an opt-in, or it could be a straight up like a book funnel, right? It could be like a free plus shipping offer, low ticket item. And what we're noticing with this 2 to 3-step strategy is the following. Number one, that the average cost that we're having right now to get somebody to consume a 6-minute video or a 7-minute video, it's anywhere between, and it depends on the niche, but it's anywhere between 15 to 25 cents, right? And if we're talking of a 7-minute video, that's a big deal because you have somebody hooked up on Facebook, of all places, for 7 minutes watching and consuming a content piece. And that only takes you like anywhere between 12 to 25 cents. So, and that is on our niche, which we are targeting entrepreneurs, business owners and whatnot. I did the test on some other niches like dog lovers, or, you know, some other niches, like they're really, really passionate. You can get like top of funnel type of consumption for, I don't know, 3 cents, right? So, so that's really, really powerful. And what that allows you to do is to get people that are really engaged in your content and what you're saying in different custom audiences. And then you can retarget them with conversion campaigns and whatnot. And then the rest of the funnel, the rest of the campaigns are pretty similar. If they, you know, if you have a webinar funnel and they register for the webinar, but they do not visit the order form, then you show them retargeting ads. If they, you know, if they visit the order form, but they do not buy, you show them other retargeting ads. So the rest of the stuff is really similar, but we're kind of having this, this experience where building audiences is still like really cheap on Facebook. The CPM drops dramatically when you switch from conversion ads, where you're, you know, leveraging their AI and their machine learning. That's why they're overcharging you, or they're charging you more on the CPM. And you switch that to anything that has to do to within Facebook. So you now have the capability of building audiences within Facebook before they even land on your funnel, which is pretty powerful. So, and then not only that, but when we retarget them, the cost per lead might still be the same. The cost per, you know, webinar registrant, the cost per book buyer might still be the same, but we are noticing that the lifetime value of a customer is much higher. The average order value of a customer is much higher. We experienced that specifically on a book funnel, that, you know, we were running traffic to this book funnel. Book funnel was converting extremely well, but we were running traffic to this book funnel, and the book funnel was breaking even or better, which is the main goal of a book funnel, right? So that you can liquidate your ad costs. But then we switched to this strategy, and then we kind of were spending the same money, but we were making a 2-to-1 ROI on the book funnel, same book funnel, everything, all that we changed was the strategy, right? Instead of going out of cold traffic to get people to buy our book, we switched that, and we, you know, warmed them up with videos first, and then we asked them to buy our book. And the average order value doubled. So what that means is that we were able to make money on the front end, which is rare, right, at scale. So we were able, specifically with those type of funnels, so we were able to make money on the front end, but also that financed the building of the audiences. And the good news is that once you have those audiences built on Facebook, you can sell them, you know, different stuff over and over again. And those is like having a list within Facebook. Granted, these are not subscribers. Subscribers are much more valuable. But if you're paying like, I don't know, $5 to $10 per webinar lead, or per subscriber to your list or whatever, and then you're paying 25 cents to get somebody to consume 100% of the, you know, of your content, then do the math. You can still run ads like the same budget, but you're building these assets within Facebook, and then you can retarget them with really, you know, valuable content and then offers. So that is basically what we're finding right now. We have been kind of experimenting with that and making it better and tweaking for the past, I don't know, maybe 18 months. And it's working really well for us, and for people, you know, for people like Frank, that everybody know who Frank is, but also for people that they're not as big on their niche, right? Which is kind of cool, because then you can build an audience, you can build a name for yourself. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting.
That's fascinating. So, would you recommend that strategy for smaller businesses as well? Or like, does that only work because like you have a mega budget, or like if someone is only spending like I actually had a client who was asking me about this same strategy just yesterday. And I was like, you know, if you're only spending like, $100 a day, like, I mean, I was like, you can try it, but like, I had to question it. I was like, I don't know if I would spend like 25% of my budget on video views if you only have like $100 that you're spending in a day.
Right. Yeah, that's actually a great point. And you know what's funny is that during that period that we were building the agency, most of the clients, I would say 90% of the clients that we had were the small business owners, and we were purposefully targeting small business owners, you know, chiropractors, lawyers, like local restaurants, like local businesses and small business owners that they didn't have like huge budgets. We did have some outliers that will come in with a funnel and they we wanted to spend like 200 grand a month, and we would take them, but that was not the bulk of the clients that we had. And yes, our target budget for them was $100 a day. And half of that actually was going to building audiences during the first month. So the way you want to do this when you have a smaller budget, let's say that you have anywhere between 75 to $100 a day, is you want to split this, because originally over the first 30 days, and this is something that a lot of small business owners, they don't want to, get exposed to, is you're building audiences. And when you're building audiences, the ROI might not be there, right? So you're building audiences over the first 30 to 45 days of the campaign, and then you start retargeting them with offer ads. Now, when you start retargeting them on offer ads, then you start seeing the ROI coming in, and the ROI, goes back and makes it up for the first 30 to 45 days that you didn't see any money coming in. So that was like our strategy. Our strategy was like, hey, listen, we will implement some direct response ads for you so that you can generate leads right away. We will have this running and building in the background with half of your budget. And then once this starts, like, you get like 10,000 people in your custom audience on Facebook, 25% video viewers, then we'll start showing them ads that, that it could be the same ads or different ads, doesn't matter, but we will start sending them to your niche. And it worked. Like for every business owner that could kind of stomach the first 30 to 45 days of not getting anything in return, it works. And mostly it gives you longevity on the campaigns. And the reason why is because you're not only targeting people that want to buy your product right now, which, you launch a conversion campaign, you harvest all of the low hanging fruit, and then your cost per acquisition goes up because Facebook needs to show it to more and more people. But not only you have that right now, but you're targeting people that might be able to buy your product. They're thinking about buying your product in the next 30 to 180 days. So it gives you longevity on the campaigns, right? So that's what we're experiencing. We're experiencing more longevity. The ads, the creatives, they don't get exhausted as quickly as, if you run a plain old direct response campaign. So again, this doesn't replaces, if you would, this doesn't replaces the direct response approach, but it's another thing that you can bolt on top of it and will make the direct response approach better, because we call this the halo effect, right? Your potential customers have seen you everywhere. Start seeing you on video, and then you on a landing page, and then another video, and then they start seeing you everywhere. And, that breeds, authority and whatnot. So that's what we're seeing.
I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to try some of that myself. That's going to be great.
Go for it.
I love it. Awesome. Okay. So has there been anything that you've tried recently that just bombed? Like, or like, it was like good in theory, but like it just flopped bad?
Yeah, we do. Like, we have that at least twice a week, like
you're like all the time.
Twice a week. Yeah. So, it is said that Facebook Lives, so this is actually an experiment that I ran last week. It was like, if you run a Facebook Live on your page, you will have better reach than if you upload a video on your page. That is what Facebook is saying, but that's not the case at all. I've been experimenting quite a bunch with that, and that's not the case at all. But yeah, we do fail pretty often and pretty quickly. It's mostly about the offer, not that much about maybe the strategy, because the strategy is pretty linear for us. It's like build audiences and sell them to those audiences. But we did like launch a couple of offers that didn't go anywhere. We do that quite often, and we do that mostly because we want to test. But something that I learned throughout the last couple of years, and after working with these people, is that we tend to get attached to ideas as and our attachment to those ideas is directly proportional to how much effort we're putting on those ideas. So if you build an offer, and then you wake up one day, right? You wake up one day with this idea of a course that's going to change people's lives. And then you go on, and then you spend months or weeks or however much recording the videos and building the offer, building the funnel, and doing this and doing that. And then you try to sell it, and it doesn't sell. And now you're married to that idea because you want it to sell, right? You spend so much time on it and you want it to sell. Now, what these people are doing, what these guys are doing, which I think is super clever, is they will throw out ideas to the marketplace. They build these audiences so that they can try ideas. They can say, hey guys, what do you think if we do this? Hey guys, what do you think if we do that? Hey guys, what do you think if we do this? Blah, blah, blah. And then they pre-sell stuff. So, you know, I was victim myself of building courses, then, you know, trying to sell them and didn't work. What I do now is I put together a list. So I send stuff to my list and then I pre-sell stuff, right? And if I get like 10, 20, 30, 50 people buying my stuff, then I go back and develop it. I'm really clear about it. I'm saying, hey guys, this is going to be an experiment. I'm going to recording the classes lives and all of that. So for instance, I just ran a 6-week workshop, which was like that. It was like, hey guys, I'm running an experiment. Do you want to, you know, jump on this workshop and whatnot? It was like 6 weeks of live training, right? And then you can sell it at a discount. It doesn't really matter. But what you're doing is you are kind of validating the idea before you spend a lot of time working on it. And then you turn it around and you start working on it. And that's how these people operate, because they're like, the marketplace is a dictatorship, right? It's like, it doesn't matter what you want. The marketplace will tell you what they want. So it's like, Russell calls it like throwing hooks, right? You're throwing hooks, and then you're seeing what's working. And then based off of that, you develop the rest of the funnel. So that is something that I learned out of that. That's why we fail so much, because we intently and purposefully are throwing stuff to the marketplace to see what sticks. 75% of that stuff, 80% of the stuff doesn't work, but the 20% that does, then we sell it, we pre-sell it, we package it, we deliver it, we put it together, we develop it, and then we put it on evergreen, you know, through funnels and through ads and whatnot. But that's part of proven theories that work, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love it. That is so fascinating. So powerful. I love that. Yeah, I've used lead formats for proof of concept stuff before, just because they're easy, right? And they're short, and they take out like the need to do a funnel. But I just love that like hearing that concept again, and using building the audiences through the value content-based pieces in order to pitch those ideas too. That's just so smart. That's so smart. I love it. I love it. Oh man, well, we could talk for a long time, and I'm sure that we will. But I want to give our listeners a chance today. Let's see, you brought up earlier in our interview about what you are promoting yourself, and you have something called the Ads Guide 2020, which or maybe it's something, a book that you've put out. So I wanted to give you a second to talk about that.
Yeah,
awesome.
For sure.
Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Why not? So it's a Facebook Ads Guidebook. It's a little bit of, it's like the initial, I would say, approach to Facebook ads if you're brand new, or if you're not, but if you want to have another input on how I write copy, the different campaigns that I run, the different dashboards that you can put together on Facebook. So that's all explaining there. I just put it on a nice domain, which is adsguide2020.com. So you can go there, get it. It's really inexpensive. It's also a book funnel, so you can expect to see upsells and downsells in there, of course. But now you know why. And that's basically what it is. So
I love that. Well, we will for sure put that in the listen notes. And guys, Hernan has also given us his perfect Facebook ads cheat sheet, which we're going to put in our toolbox. So I'm so excited. We're coming out with a toolbox that has all of our listeners' tools in one place for people to access, and it's going to be in a killer members area. So we're so thankful for you being willing to put a resource into that marketer's toolbox that we're putting together. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
If anyone wants to follow your journey, where can people find you?
Well, if you search my name online, I'm on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. I've been putting out content there for the past 4 years, so there's a lot of good stuff in there. So yeah, if you search for my name, it's at Hernans Backstory Marketing on Instagram as well. So you can find me.
Awesome. Well, Hernan, it has been a pleasure having you on the Marketing Matrix today. You are just a gem, and it was like so fun to just geek out with you. I like, for some of our listeners that aren't as experienced with Facebook ads, I apologize for letting me indulge in letting us kind of go deep on this stuff. But there is just incredible value here, and I'm looking forward to going back and listening to the replay and taking notes myself. So thank you again for being on the Marketing Matrix.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Access granted. Access granted.